Hey guys, and welcome back to the NPA for week number 11's Game of the Week, as voted on by the coaches of the NPA. It is season number 2, and we have a matchup between Chris Kobain and the 8-1 Baltimore Blazikens taking on TheXception and the Tampa Bay Luxrays, who are 3-6. At the bottom of your screen, you have Chris Kobain's team. At the top, we have exceptions. And before we get into the actual battle, let's run down the teams. Chris is bringing Mega Diancie, Exploud, Gyarados, Slowking, Jirachi, and Garchomp, leaving on the bench Virizion, Celebi, Rotom Regular, Drapion, and Gligar. TheXception is bringing Mega Latios, Florges, Jellicent, Landorus T, Keldeo, and Bouffalant, leaving Ditto, Shuckle, Doublade, Houndoom, and Honchkrow on the bench. So without further ado, let's jump right into this battle. Alright. So here we go. This is from Chris Kobain's point of view, as TheXception will lead Bouffalant into the Mega Diancie. So Diancie is not in a great position as of yet, so it's going to switch out immediately, as Bouffalant hits really hard, has a good plethora of moves to it, and in comes MC Hammer, the Garchomp, as Bouffalant actually decides to start setting up, goes for the Sword Stance on the first turn. MC Hammer's going to go for an Earthquake, get that stab, ground damage, but Bouffalant eats it up, goes for the Head Charge, that is stab as well, and MC Hammer's going to take a ton of damage, but with the rough skin, Bouffalant takes some damage in return, plus the recoil, or actually plus the Rocky Helmet, and then plus the recoil. Bouffalant is down into the red already. It's going to crock its Cutsap Berry, as it actually goes for the Earthquake right back, and that'll take out the Garchomp. So that was actually a pretty interesting turn of events. So Garchomp had both Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet, has a lot of HP to it. Bouffalant takes a ridiculous amount of damage from recoil, from the helmet, from the Rough Skin, but has the Cutsap Berry as it's in the red, which means it'll outspeed the Garchomp and it'll take it out. That is crazy way to start off the battle, a really nice move by TheXception. So now in comes Make-A-Wish the Jirachi. And it seems that TheXception is going to save Bouffalant for later. So Jirachi is going to be taking on the Jellicent. And it seems that this Jirachi is Choice Scarfed based on everything I've seen from this battle, as it's going to go for the U-turn into the Jellicent. And it's actually... Curse Body's going to take effect, it won't matter. But Jirachi is going to switch back out, get some switch initiative, and in comes Exploud Subwoofer to try and deal some damage to the Jellicent. Keep in mind that Exploud can get the ability Scrappy, as it goes for the Boom Burst, and this might be Choice Specs. The Boom Burst does a lot of damage to the Jellicent. We don't see any items, so I'm assuming it is Choice Specs. And the Scald comes out from the Jellicent. It cannot take out the Exploud. It doesn't even do more than about 25% to it. As Exploud will go one more time on the Boom Burst. That's stab, 140 base damage, and down goes the Jellicent. So we're down to a 5v5, and in comes Keldeo, which will obviously scare out the Exploud, being its fighting secondary typing. And in comes Headache, the Slowking. So it's a good matchup right now for both sides pretty much. I mean, obviously the Keldeo's going to want to get out of here, but the Secret Sword, does a decent amount of damage, goes for the Hidden Power, and it looks like this is probably Hidden Power Grass, as Headache's going to go for the Scald instead of going for a Psychic type attack expecting a switch out. No burn, and the Slowking's actually going to switch out at this point, which is kind of interesting. In comes Jirachi to take a Hidden Power from this Keldeo, and I don't know if I would have done that particularly, but to get the Regenerator and to U-turn on out, the Jirachi will take a little bit of damage, it'll outspeed, chip away at the Keldeo even slightly, and Jirachi is going to switch right back out. So in comes Headache once again, and Secret Sword comes out from Keldeo one more time. It's going to do a decent amount of damage to the Slowking, and he's going to switch out this time around, because Slowking is a pretty big threat to Keldeo with its Psyshock. So Headache goes for the Psyshock on the Latios switch-in, and Latios, being a Psychic type itself, will eat that up pretty handily. So Slowking switches back out. We haven't seen an item on it. Could it be that that's choiced as well? I'm not sure. But either way, Jirachi is back in, and Latios is going to Mega Evolve. So, based on speed tiers, Jirachi should never outspeed Latios. Dragon Dance comes out from Latios, and that is going to be a +1 attack and +1 speed. But Jirachi's going to switch out here, interestingly enough, just in case. And in comes Subwoofer as maybe a chance to just sack it off. The Latios goes for the Thunderbolt, which, I'm not sure exactly, maybe predicting the Earthquake, so goes for the Thunderbolt on the Gyarados, whatever, but the Earthquake comes out and will take out the Exploud. And the Exception takes a 5-4 lead. In comes Headache, which I thought was a really weird move. And even weirder was that Latios went for the Earthquake instead of going for the Thunderbolt. I guess because Slowking is specially defensive, that was the plan, but it seems like you go for the stab attack versus Earthquake, I don't know. But Dragon Tail whips it out, and in comes Landorus T to intimidate the Slowking. Oddly enough, Landorus goes for the Rock Polish in the face of a Pokemon that likes to Scald. So a super effective Scald comes out. It almost KOs the Landorus. A burn would have sealed its fate, but the Exception's going to switch out immediately. I don't really agree with that play to bring in the Landorus anyway, but whatever. So another Scald comes out from the Slowking into the Keldeo, and Keldeo does not get burned, and the Keldeo just switches right back out. I'm not sure what's going on, maybe it was a misclick, but in comes Mega Latios, and Slowking will switch out as well. Maybe it was just a way to double switch to predict that the Psyshock, or that didn't have Psyshock, but Jirachi outspeeds the Latios and goes for the Ice Punch, which does a ton of damage, so obviously it's Choice Scarfed. The Earthquake right back at it does a good amount of damage, doesn't take it out, and because it is obviously slower, the Latios will switch out back into Keldeo. Another Ice Punch on its way from Jirachi. Very lucky that the Keldeo did not get frozen. And Jirachi's going to switch out for a later battle. In comes Headache once again. The Mega, or the normal Slowking. And Keldeo's going to go for the Hidden Power. I'm assuming Grass. It's going to do a good amount of damage. It's a 3-hit KO. Keldeo goes for it one more time. This will whittle down the Slowking tremendously into the red. But Psyshock will come out from Slowking, and that will finish off the Keldeo. So I'm not sure exactly what item is on this Slowking, because it doesn't seem like it's choiced at this point. Maybe it's Expert Belted, something. But in comes Bouffalant to finish off the Slowking. Wild Charge comes out. Down goes the Slowking. And we are in a very interesting position. It is Jirachi, Mega Diancie, and Gyarados versus a very damaged Bouffalant, a very damaged Latios, a very damaged Landorus T, and a Florges that we have not seen yet. So in comes Mega Diancie, and Diancie is obviously going to Mega Evolve on the first turn, lowering its defenses but increasing its offensive output and its speed. Goes for the Moonblast, and that'll easily take out the Bouffalant in this range. And now we are in an interesting 3v3 situation. Jirachi is the lowest Pokemon for Chris Kobain, but in comes Latios, and Latios has Steel Wing, 4 times effective, and the Diancie goes down in one hit. That was an awesome tech on the Mega Latios, and it's down to a 2v2. In comes Jirachi, which will outspeed. At this point, Jirachi is safe to go for Iron Heads, because, or it's a 3v2 at this point. Safe to go for Iron Heads because of the simple fact that nothing on the Exceptions team can really take one, but instead he goes for the U-turn, which after the Intimidate will not take out the Landorus. So Jirachi switches out into the Gyarados, Leviathan, and basically the Intimidate's going to come out from the Gyarados onto the Landorus. Interesting that we didn't see the Florges or the Gyarados throughout this battle up until now, but a Stone Edge comes out, does a lot of damage thanks to the Intimidate. It does not KO. A Waterfall comes out, and that will take out the Landorus. I'm pretty sure, that wasn't a crit, was it? Let's just go back real quick. I don't think that was a crit on the, yeah, that was not a crit on the Gyarados. So, if the Intimidate didn't come out, it would have KO'd, but Obviously, Gyarados carries Intimidate for a reason. The Waterfall finishes off the Landorus, and now it is back down to a 2v2. So Mega Latios can come in and pretty much dispose of the Gyarados here. But it seems that Chris might have this one locked up, especially with Florges in the back. Thunderbolt comes out from the Mega Latios. Down goes the Gyarados. And despite the fact that it's a 1v2, Jirachi is choiced, and the final Pokemon at full health for the exception is Florges. So Iron Head comes out from Jirachi, locking itself into that. Latios well within range to go down to the stab. Iron Head means it's a 1v1, and in comes Florges, which is known as a specially defensive Pokemon, not defensive. The Iron Head comes out. Serene Grace from the Jirachi, remember, does a ton of damage. It has a 30% chance to flinch already. That makes it a 60% chance to flinch. Florges doesn't get an attack off. We don't know what the Florges had. It very well could have had a move that would have finished off the Jirachi, whether it be Hidden Power Fire or something, but it does not matter because the flinch does happen. The leftover recovery from the Florges will activate, but at this point, this battle is already over. Another Iron Head comes out, and that is going to easily take out the Florges, and Chris Kobain and the Baltimore Blazikens take this battle by a final score of 1-0, and they improve to 9-1. The Exception put up a great battle as well, but he falls to 3-7 on the season. In terms of Pokemon differences, Florges making no appearance until the very end of the battle was a little bit interesting. I guess just fear of the Jirachi the whole time, but for especially defensive Pokemon, I was kind of expecting to see the Florges a little bit more. Jellicent went down pretty easily to the Exploud. I probably would have expected that to face the Exploud rather than the Florges to face the Exploud rather than the Jellicent, but it was probably caught off guard by the Scrappy, whatever the reason. The fact that we didn't see Gyarados towards the end was pretty smart. Obviously, Water Absorb, maybe, in Jellicent. Keldeo sticking around, Latios, always an issue. I guess that was really just a tech to deal with Landorus and to maybe deal some offensive damage to other things, get some Intimidates going, but most of the Exceptions team was special attacking. 4 out of the 6 Pokemon were. And then on the bench, could there have been a better Pokemon choice by the Exception? Maybe. The way that the battle went, Floor just wasn't that useful. Maybe Doublade would have been better. Maybe Honchkrow, because of Sucker Punch, being able to deal with the Jirachi. But outside of that, maybe not. Maybe Ditto in that case, too, could have always been. Ditto's always useful. But on the other side, anything that Chris could have brought differently, maybe instead of the Gyarados, he could have brought something along the lines of Virizion. That could have dealt with the Keldeo, could have dealt with the Jellicent, barring Sap Zipper, but Focus Blast could have dealt with the Bouffalant. So, either way, it was a really great battle between these two competitors. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am Moonlight Swami, and I'll be talking to you guys later. Peace!